Hey guys, it's your host Joseph Camperman from the Long John Podcast coming at you with some breaking news. Of course, as of Sunday afternoon, Chris Paul was traded to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Bradley Beal, Jordan Godwin, and Isaiah Todd. The Wizards also will receive, along with Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, multiple second-round picks, and multiple pick swaps. So, of course, this is huge, and many would consider this a win-win for both teams. The Phoenix Suns now get to pair Bradley Beal with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton for next season. However, they will be forking out the absolute mother load for all of these players, which will amount to $160 million in cap space. And this was rumored to be the Phoenix Suns and Washington Wizards wanted to get this deal done before that July 1st deadline, which is when the new collective bargaining agreement kicks in, which would have made this trade a lot more difficult due to the new collective bargaining agreement trying to limit the amount of spending teams can make. And ultimately, there are a few teams that missed out on this trade. And of course, one of those teams is the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat were reportedly building a package around now expiring contract Kyle Lowry as well as Duncan. The primary reason for this is Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry were both being in this package, but in addition to this package, the Miami Heat were going to pair up to 3 first-round picks with this package for Beal to keep the young guard Tyler Hero out of the deal. Ultimately, Bradley Beal chose the Phoenix Suns over the Miami Heat and what is now reported as potentially the Sacramento Kings. So Miami is now, this trickles down, and Miami is now focusing on trying to land Portland Trailblazers guard Damian Lillard. Of course, this would be a blockbuster deal as well, but Damian Lillard is officially not really requested out of Portland officially, and so this really now begs the difference. Begs the question, will he actually do that? Milwaukee tried to get Beal. They couldn't get Beal, and the Milwaukee Bucks ultimately failed. And since Beal had a no-trade clause, he got to choose which team he went to. It is reported that Wizards would love to keep Chris Paul, but would be willing to trade the guard to another contender. And ultimately, this would be a part of the Wizards rebuild, which is what a lot of people are expecting them to go through. A lot of teams would be interested in Chris Paul, but it is being reported now that Chris Paul and the Los Angeles Clippers are reportedly interested in a reunion, which would see Chris Paul paired with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. This would obviously be another trio of players that could be very successful in the NBA. The Suns, obviously, as we all know, already made a huge deal towards the end of 2023 when they gave up Mikal Bridges to the Brooklyn Nets and 4 first-round picks in exchange for Kevin Durant at the trade deadline. One of the most notable things about all of this is that ultimately, when they gave up all those picks, Monty Williams essentially was given a very short leash. You either make it very far in the playoffs or you get, fired. And ultimately it led to the firing of Monty Williams. And now Frank Vogel has a new big three. DeAndre Ayton, however, you can pair the big three with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, but it appears now that big three may lose that fourth player in DeAndre Ayton, as the Phoenix Suns may be looking to trade Ayton for depth players, because as of right now, as we speak, the players on the Phoenix Suns roster are Cameron Payne, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and Cameron Payne, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Ishmael Wainwright. That means they have one bench player, essentially, which is nothing for a team that's going to have to play many, many, many games this year, with 2 players in Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal that have injury concerns. So the question here for Phoenix is, can they get the maximum amount of games played out of both of those players after both players have dealt with injury issues over the last couple of years? And what is this going to look like for the rest of the NBA, especially the Western Conference? Will they compete with someone like the Denver Nuggets next year? It appears now that they have one of the best rosters in the in the NBA, but the roster is lacking holes because they are needing serious depth if they're wanting, in my opinion, to make a play in the playoffs. You need a lot of depth players. Depth is important. Another really big potential red flag is this could be looked at as Kevin Durant's technically fifth super team. Now, this is a little bit of a stretch, so take this with a grain of salt. But ultimately, the first super team, which many people probably didn't realize in the beginning, was Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant with Oklahoma City Thunder. Then, of course, there was the second super team with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson with the Warriors, where he won 2 rings. And then the third super team, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden. Fourth super team you could look at, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant. And then finally now this fifth super team, if you really want to maybe exaggerate it and say Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. However, of all of these teams that Kevin Durant has been in, only the Warriors are the teams he's won 2 rings with. So the question is, can Kevin Durant shed that label that the Warriors were the reason why he won those 2 rings? And does this make the Phoenix Suns the number 1 team in the NBA to beat next season? It remains to be seen. There's a lot of questions that have to be answered. Will they build depth? Will they trade another player like DeAndre Ayton to try to get depth players? Or will they keep that and get veterans signing on him? Keep DeAndre Ayton and get veterans signing on very small deals just in efforts to hopefully, if they see a chance to get a ring, sign for relatively cheap deals. So it remains to be seen. Again, thanks for tuning into this little video. Check out my all my socials on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at the Long John Podcast, on Twitter and Instagram, Instagram and YouTube at the Long John Podcast, as well as Twitter at the Long John Pod. I'm also on TikTok at the Long John Podcast. You're not going to want to miss any of the content I'm putting out in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be really exciting, including a special guest, Amin the Dream, on Tuesday, June 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in, guys. You're not going to want to miss it. Peace out.